Can you all hear me?
Sí se oye, profe.
Thank you. Well, do you remember what was my only question? Hello, everyone. Do you remember what was my only question last class? It was related to the grammatical tenses in the English language, okay? Do you remember it? So, we're going to work with that, but before it, I need to call out your names. So let me check in here. Team. Sorry, I remember you were. Okay, let me check what is happening here. Okay. Okay. Hold on. Okay. Let's see. Okay, here. Okay, so let's start with the list. Hmm. Okay, so let's start. Karen. No, what's a mistake? Okay. Okay, no. It's this one. Mm, Okay. It's just the sixth. Okay, let's start. In this part, Kevin, guys, can you listen? Kevin, Erika,
Present.
um, Andy,
Present.
um, Sandra,
Present.
Alejandra,
Present.
Itzel,
Present.
mm, Daniela,
Present.
Yatsiri,
Here.
mm, Jairet, Marta, is Marta in here? Diana,
Here, teacher.
Kayla,
Present.
mm, Dulce,
Present.
Alma,
Present, profe.
Arturo,
Present.
Rubí,
Here. Here.
Víctor, is Victor in here? Okay. Um, Miriam, Miriam. Okay. Um, Vianetsi. Okay. Mm, Adriana.
Present. Present, profe.
Okay, thank you. Jessica.
Here.
Mm, Dulce Denise.
Present.
Denise. Okay, thank you. Giovanni. Víctor Manuel.
Present.
Laura.
Present.
And Iris.
Present.
Okay, thank you. Is someone else missing? ¿Quién faltó? ¿O alguien faltó?
Present, teacher. Es que se me fue el internet. Lo siento.
Okay. Is okay. Present. Good. Okay, so then let's continue with the class. Do you remember last class I was asking you about the grammatical tenses or the grammar tenses we should learn in the English language? Do you remember it? Okay, so according to you, you didn't say all the tenses, but in this case, we're going to make a review. And I'm going to explain like the parts. I'm going to use like a a PDF document, which I'm going to send you later on this day. And then I need you also to, well, if you don't get what I am explaining, or I will explain in this class, please just tell me in order to clarify all your points, okay? So how many tenses we said there are in the English language? Do you remember it? Okay, Dianetsi, I already got your attendance. Don't worry. Okay, so do you remember how many tenses do we have in the English language? ¿Sí se acuerdan? Guys, remember I need you to speak. So do you remember? Do you remember how many? Okay, so let's start. Remember, there are 12, and in this case, we're going to study all of them. Okay, so what for? Do you remember what for we use the simple present? Yes, there are 12 grammatical tenses, and do you remember what for we use the simple present. Do you remember?
Teacher,
Yes, me.
the simple present is I am, you are, he, she is.
Well, in this case, we're going to use like with the verb be. But remember what for we use it.
Use it for habits and routines.
Yes, this is going to be used for habits and routines. What else?
Present.
Oh, yes. What else? I mean, ¿qué más?
I use
Habits, routines, and also.
tags about I be, bueno, cómo me siento o cómo estoy.
Mhm. So in this case, we're going to talk about facts, okay? So the way to feel, it's going to be about how you will share with you. In this case, we're going to analyze the tenses and their structure, okay? Ready? Okay, in this part, it's having here. We have in the chart, we have tense, signal word that is like what I said, like we can use adverbs of frequency, we can use time expressions and so on, okay, in order to identify what tense we are using. Then it says in here the use, the form, examples in affirmative sentences, negative, and questions, okay? Can you see this the document? ¿Sí pueden ver el documento? Yes. Remember, I need you to speak. Okay, so you all see it. Yes?
Yes, teacher.
Okay, so let's continue then. In here we have simple present. In here we have signal words, or the ones that are going to help us to recognize the tense. In this case, we have every day, sometimes, always, often, usually, seldom, never, first, then, second. Okay, in this case, um, these are the adverbs of frequency. Do you remember we have already? Have you seen the first video in the platform in the Aldea TDO? Well, the first video is related to the simple present, and in that part we are going to use the adverbs of frequency. As in this case, we're going to use the adverbs of frequency. It tells us how frequent we do something. Okay. So in this case, every day means diario, sometimes, a veces, always, siempre, often, seguido, frecuente, usually, usualmente, seldom, es como raro, never, nunca. But in this case, we have some others, okay? If you just go to the first video in the Aldea Tedeo, you're going to see some examples in this part of the adverbs of frequency. Entonces, ¿para qué sirven los adverbios de frecuencia?
Para hablar de algo que hacemos frecuentemente.
Exactly. We're going to say how often do we, so how frequent we prefer something. ¿Qué tan frecuentemente hacemos algo, okay? And in this case, it says use something that happens repeatedly, how often something happens, one action that follows another, things in general, to talk about likes and dislikes, and it says in here future meaning. But in this case, we're going to go through this by examples. In this case, we have the infinitive. Remember, we need a subject and a verb and a complement, okay? Necesitamos un sujeto, un verbo y un complemento. Remember, we always will use the same parts of the sentence. In this case, we're going to just make simple sentences in here. It says in here, affirmative, I work, and it's the infinitive. And remember, when we use the third person, he, she, and it, we need the infinitive plus the s ending according to the ending of the verb. Vamos a terminar, bueno, vamos a agregar s, ies o es de acuerdo a la terminación del verbo. With the third person, okay, con las terceras personas. In this case, we have I work. We can also say I work every day, I work twice a week, I work once a week. Just in order to clarify like the how frequent something happened. And then let's take the same example. I work, but when we use it with third person, we need to add the s. He works, she works. And then in here we say I go, or when we use the third person, we says he goes. And in here, the ending or the conjugation for the verb change. In the first verb we say work, we only add an s. But in the second one, we add es. Y va a cambiar, ¿sale? Va a cambiar la terminación del verbo en las terceras personas. Vamos a agregar s en verbos como work, pero cuando en este caso el verbo termina diferente, vamos a agregar es como el verbo go, goes, ¿sale? And in that way, we have some other different changes according to and as I said, the changes or the conjugation for the verbs in third person with the third person will be depending on the ending of the verb. Se va a depender de la terminación del verbo para aplicar la regla. Later on, again, I'm going to send you the rules of conjugation, okay? Is it clear so far? ¿Está claro hasta ahora, chicos? Is it clear? Guys, I need to tell me if you just get it or not in order to continue or to explain it again to you. So is it clear or not? ¿Sí quedó claro, chicos? I need to hear you. I need to hear your voices, please.
Yes, teacher.
Okay. Then let's go with a negative or a negative statement. In this case, we're going to use an auxiliary verb. We need the subject, the auxiliary verb do, plus the negative part that in this case is the contraction of not, that change into don't. And then we need the main verb, okay? And we can also, again, add a complement. In this case, we only have subject, auxiliary verb, and main verb. I don't work. But in this case, we can also use or to make a complete sentences or to complete the information of the sentence by telling I don't work on Sundays maybe. Okay? So when we add a time expression or when we add something else or that gives more information, we're going to use it as a complement. But in this case, do change into don't according to the structure because it's a negative sentence, and then the main verb remains the same. Okay? And again, let's go with the third person. With third person, we use do, but in this case, as we're talking about third person, we need to add es. That change into does plus the negative part, doesn't, plus the main verb, work. He doesn't work. Okay? So remember, with all the subjects, we use do, don't, but when we talk about third person, he, she, or it, we use doesn't or does. Okay? And as we are just changing the auxiliary verb, we are making the change of the simple present with third person in the auxiliary verb. The main verb remains the same. Como estamos haciendo el cambio de la tercera persona en el verbo auxiliar, el verbo principal permanece igual o se queda igual sin cambios. ¿Sale? And if you see here, we have two rules in here. The first said that we add the s to the verbs. La primera regla y la general de la conjugación de las terceras personas dice que agregamos s a los verbos. Cuando lo conjugamos en tercera persona, lo vemos en work. Pero también hay una regla y una de ellas es que cuando los verbos terminan, por ejemplo, en o, agregamos es a la conjugación del verbo y por eso queda en goes o doesn't o does, ¿ok? And then when we have interrogative examples in here, do I work? Trabajo. So we need just to exchange. In the other sentences, we use first the subject and then the verb. Then we go with the subject, auxiliary verb, and main verb. Tenemos sujeto, verbo auxiliar, y verbo principal. But when we make questions, the yes-no questions, we use first the auxiliary verb, in this case do. Then we need the subject, and then the main verb, do I work? And when we use third person, does he work? The only thing we're going to do in here, or to make for example, a statement question, is to add the auxiliary verb at the beginning. Vamos a agregar el verbo principal, el verbo auxiliar en el principio de la oración. I work, do I work? And then we add the question mark. Okay? Is it clear? ¿Sí quedó claro, chicos?
Yes.
Okay. Now, let's see in here. Present progressive. I always said that this is the only tense that works in English as works in Spanish. Trabaja exactamente igual en español o en inglés. ¿Sale? Why? And well, the keywords that we are going to, or the identifying words will be now, at the moment, look, and listen, okay? They're like the most frequent words. In this case, the use says something is happening at the same time of speaking or around it. And we're going to use it to talk about future meaning. Have already decided and arranged. Okay, so in this case, we're going to explain it. We're going to use it to talk about, yes, to talk about something that is happening at the moment of speaking, de algo que está pasando al momento en el que estamos hablando, que en este caso por eso es continuo, porque la acción se está desarrollando. And at the same time, we are going to learn to use it to talk about future. Do you remember the going to? ¿Se acuerdan del going to? Guys, do you remember it? Well, in this case, the present progressive for future will work as the same as the going to. In this case, we're going to use present progressive for future in order to talk about something that it's already a fact or something that it's going to happen, but it won't change. Algo que no va a cambiar, ¿sale? Por eso lo usamos como el going to. Acuérdense, el going to va a ser para planes que ya son un hecho o para hablar de situaciones que son un hecho y no van a cambiar o difícilmente van a cambiar, ¿sale? Lo mismo va a pasar con el presente continuo para futuro. Igual lo vamos a usar para hablar de situaciones que ya son un hecho. Pueden ser citas, pueden ser planes, ¿sale? Pero algo que ya no va a cambiar. In this case, the structure we're going to use, or like the main parts of the structure is the verb be, which means ser o estar, and the main verb with the ing ending. Vamos a agregar el verbo to be, ser o estar, y el verbo principal con terminación ing. So in this case, it says in here, subject, I, verb be, am, and then we are work, and then plus the ing, working. Okay? In this case, if you translate it into Spanish, it's going to be the same thing. We express the idea into our language. Yo estoy trabajando, estoy comiendo, estoy con mis amigos. Bueno, en ese caso puede ser como una terminación diferente, pero puedes decir, estoy jugando fútbol con mis amigos, estoy haciendo la tarea. Entonces, en esa parte, siempre vamos a usarlo o vamos a poder compararlo con el español y son las mismas características. I'm working, he's working, I'm going, and he's going. And in this case, remember, subject, verb be, main verb in base form or in infinitive, and the ing ending. And when we make negative statements, we need the subject, again, main verb. In this case, we're going to use not with, for example, the first person, because I'm saying I'm not working. Remember, the am can be contract or can be a contraction with the negative verb. That's why that's the only case in which we use I'm not. But the others is or contract with the negative part of the sentence, which turns it into isn't or aren't. In this case, we can say I'm not working, he isn't working, I'm not going, he isn't going, or we can say we aren't playing soccer. And again, as we are using an auxiliary verb, when we make questions, the auxiliary verb goes in the first place. That's why, in this case, for example, I am working. And in this case, when we turn that into a question, am I working? And we add the question mark. Okay? Is it clear? And remember, you need to answer these questions with yes or not. When the answer is positive, you just need to add yes, I am, or no, I'm not. But in this case, when we give a positive answer, we need to use the full form of the structure. No podemos contraer cuando damos una pregunta o cuando damos una respuesta afirmativa. En este caso siempre vamos a usar todo completo, ¿sale? Porque no se pueden usar contracciones, pero cuando hacemos las negaciones ahí sí podemos usar contracciones. ¿Alguna duda hasta ahora? Is it clear? So is it clear or not? Okay, so I'm going to continue with the following. In this case, let's start with the simple past. I need you to tell me what for we use the simple past, please. Okay, so hmm, it is. Are you there? It is. Are you there? Kayla, are you there?
No, teacher.
Okay, so who can tell me what for we use the simple past? Do you remember it? Okay, then I'm going to tell you in here. Simple past, we're going to use like time expressions like last week, last Tuesday, last Monday, last month, last year, 2 years ago, 1 week ago, okay? And we're going to talk about complete actions that started and finished in a specific moment in the past, okay? So we're going to talk, that's why we talk about complete actions. Por eso hablamos de acciones completas. Empezaron y terminaron en un momento específico en el pasado. Okay? So, in this case, we're going to use two different types of verbs, the regular ones and the regular ones. Again, we need the subject, the main verb, the IE ending, the ID ending according to the if it is regular verb, or to check another list if it is irregular. So let's see the examples in here. I worked. I worked. He worked. I went. And he went. In this case, it's important for you to know that when we use the regular verbs, we have three different yes, we have three different ways of pronunciate the ID ending, okay? Vamos a tener tres formas diferentes de pronunciar la terminación ed de los verbos regulares. The first one, and we are going to say in here, worked. It is not pronounced as worked, as many people said, or many students. Or when we study at the beginning, we always said work it, leave it. No. And that happens because in Spanish we have this habit of pronounce all the words that we just or all the letters we just see in the words. But in this case, we're going to omit the e. And for example, when there is vibration or when there is a voice word, cuando tenemos una palabra con vibración, that it can be also voiced in English, is known as voiced. We're going to say work, but in this case, as we are using or we are raising our tone according to get to the worked, we're going to pronounce a T. Se va a pronunciar como una T, ¿sale? No se va a pronunciar como worked, sino como worked. And for example, if we have another verb, live, vivir, we're going to pronounce it with D, lived. So we're going to omit the E. And in this case, it's because that word is voiceless. En esa palabra no hay tanta vibración, entonces sí nos sale un sonido de D. I worked, I work, ¿sale? And I'm going to just give you this part in Spanish. When you use, bueno, cuando ustedes, o cómo pueden ustedes pronunciar las terminaciones. Se supone que si hay vibración en su garganta, el verbo se va a pronunciar con T, y si no hay una vibración o no es muy fuerte la palabra, se va a pronunciar con una D, ¿sale? Por eso les ponía el ejemplo worked y lived. Pero obviamente no, y muchos profesores de repente les dicen así como toquen su garganta para ver si hay vibración o no hay vibración. Esos ejercicios sirven al principio, pero al final, o sea, ya no vas a estar como todo el tiempo tocando tu garganta para ver si hay vibración o no. Entonces, vamos a hacer un pequeño ejercicio para que ustedes se vayan dando cuenta de cómo es que vamos a notar la pronunciación. Traten de pronunciar el primer verbo, work, con una D al final. I need to listen to you. Necesito escucharlos. So, who's the first? ¿Quién va a ser el primero? Okay. Victor Hugo, please.
I
Okay. Tell me.
work y worked.
Mhm,
Bueno, algo así.
mhm. So, if you pronounce the first work with D, you just need to go down to your voice, okay? Necesitas como bajar tu voz o tu tono un modo y como se traba ahí tu voz de repente. No, pues decir work,
Ok.
¿sale? Se escucha como forzado. ¿Ya, sí notaron que se escucha forzado? ¿O te fuerzas como tal a bajar como el tono? Work,
Sí, como que es
¿sale?
un poco forzado, es algo complicado.
Exactamente. Y lo mismo va a pasar, por ejemplo, si ustedes pronuncian el verbo lift con T. Traten de pronunciar el verbo lift con una terminación T. Lift. También va a ser un poco forzado. Victor Hugo, can you please do it?
Lift.
And then pronounce it with D, lived.
Lived.
And then with T. Y ahora con T.
Lift.
Good.
Lift.
So, what is easier for you? ¿Cuál es más fácil para ti? With D or with T?
Con D.
Yes, that's why we're going to identify when we're going to pronounce it. And there is another rule that says that well, in this case, I'm going to give you again. Les voy a dar la regla en español y sería conveniente que la anotaran. Entonces, como tal, la regla dice que para verbos, la regla dice que para verbos que terminan en D o T, agregamos la terminación ed y suena como it. Y entonces tenemos el verbo want, por ejemplo, want ends with T, el verbo want con T, and then we said want it. ¿Sale? Ahí se pronuncia la terminación ed, pero esa e se pronuncia como una i, want it. And then we have the verb need, that also ends with d, need, need it. Want it, need it. Okay, that's the only case in which you are going to pronounce the id ending. Okay, the ed ending. See? Is it clear? ¿Sí está claro?
Profe, pero en algunas palabras entonces aplica esa pronunciación, o bueno, o hay unas palabras específicas que tengan, por ejemplo, en el dado caso que nos dijo que tenía terminación ed, pero pronunciábamos la e por la i, entonces es como, no se sabría cuál palabra se pronunciaría con esa pronunciación.
Okay, yes, we can say because that's the rule. O sea, vamos a tener la regla. La regla dice que cuando tu verbo termina en T o en D, o sea, cualquier verbo que sea regular, obviamente, y termine en T o en D, a ese verbo le vamos a agregar, bueno, la terminación ed y va a sonar como it. Recuerden que para empezar, la letra E en español, en inglés, suena como I, ¿vale? So when we go to the alphabet, A, B, C, D, E, that's why we are going to pronounce want it, need it. ¿Vale? Vamos a hacer como terminaciones, pero con los sonidos del inglés. Por eso va a sonar como una I. Need it, want it.
Ah, ok, sí, profe. Sí,
¿Sale?
escucho.
Y entonces ya tenemos la regla. Cuando son de verbos que terminan, o verbos regulares que terminan con T o con D, solo para eso se aplica. Ya con los demás les digo, también la regla es que si son voiced o hay vibración cuando los pronuncian, es con un sonido de T, y cuando son sonidos suaves o que no hay tanta vibración, es con un sonido de D. ¿Ok?
Sí, teacher, gracias.
This case, when we just go with the negative part, the do we use, for example, in the simple present, change into did. Cuando usamos el do en el presente simple, en inglés, o bueno, en pasado, y en inglés obviamente vamos a usar did. That is the past of the verb do, and that's our irregular one, okay? I did, yo hice, but in this case, as we are using as an auxiliary verb, we're going to say, I didn't work. I didn't, or I did not work. I didn't work. He didn't work. In this case, the did, as we are going to change it, we don't need to change anything. And remember, the past of the verbs are, or is the same for all the subjects. Entonces, como en este caso estamos hablando del pasado, es para el mismo para todos los sujetos, ¿ok? So that's why we only change did, do into did, plus the negative verb, in this case is contracted, didn't. Or we can also say did not. That's up to you. But remember, native English speakers use a lot of contractions, so it is better for you to learn to contract a lot of things in English. And it's going to be better for you because it will give you more fluency when you speak. And then questions: did I work? Did he work? Did I go? And remember, the only thing that we're doing here is to change the auxiliary verb in first place, the subject goes into the second place, and then we have the main verb. Did I work? Did he work? Did I go? Did he go? Is it clear so far? ¿Está claro hasta ahora?
Yes, teacher.
Yes,
Yes,
teacher.
teacher.
Okay. Okay, as we are just getting to the end of the class, I'm going to send you this chart, and you're going to give a review, but at the same time, you're going to give like the same thing, but with your own examples, okay? I'm going to give you this chart in order for you to make a review and to go further for the other class in order to just see all the topic quicker. or quickly in this case. But at the same time, in your notebook, you're going to recreate the chart that I'm going to send you in here, but using your own examples, okay? Les voy a mandar la tabla para que ustedes vean las estructuras y obviamente van a hacer sus propias oraciones, o sea, van a recrear la tabla después en sus libretas. Puede incluso ser un poquito más fácil, pero sí necesito que ustedes hagan sus propios ejemplos, ¿ok? And how will I evaluate this part? You're gonna take a photograph. If you do, okay, we have like two different options. You can use a Word document in order to send it to me. And if you do it, you can send it by email. Or if you do in your notebook, you can just take a photo and send me the photo to the email, okay? Tienen dos opciones. Pueden hacerlo en un documento de Word, mandármelo, obviamente cuando ya hayan terminado sus propias oraciones. Y también pueden, si lo hacen en su libreta, pues mandarme la fotografía, ¿ok?
Okay.
The deadline of this homework should be tomorrow at midday. Mañana al mediodía va a ser la hora límite a las 12. 11:59 hasta las 12. 12 en punto. Después de las 12 en punto, o sea, 12:01 ya no va a contar su tarea, ¿sale? Okay, in this case, if you don't want to make like the chart, you, for example, can make like, okay, we're going to go with the simple present. We're going to use like simple present in affirmative, negative, interrogative. And then present continuous. O sea, lo que pueden hacer es como ir marcando nada más los tiempos gramaticales que están usando y poner sus oraciones, una afirmativa, una negativa y una en pregunta, ¿sale? Para que no estén como haciendo todo el formato de tabla. But in this case, it is important for me that you use your own ideas. Okay? Sí es importante que usen sus propias ideas. Entonces aquí les voy a poner como la tabla. En este caso, hay una parte se los voy a explicar así en español rapidísimo. Estamos en presente continuo, por ejemplo. Luego vamos a pasar en la parte donde dice simple present perfect. The chart has a mistake because it's present perfect without the simple. En ese caso ya no es simple presente perfecto, es present perfect. So please omit the simple that we have in here. And again, we're going to use with this present perfect progressive. It will in here, simple past perfect. In this case, we are going to just omit this part, the simple, and should be past perfect, okay? And we have will for future and going to, but at the same, I'm going to send you some of the examples with the future continuous, future perfect, and future perfect continuous, okay? Or progressive. En el futuro se va a quedar hasta su forma simple y en esa de la siguiente clase, bueno, les voy a mandar igual un documento para que también vayan estudiando donde les voy a dar las opciones de cómo hacer tanto futuro progresivo como con perfecto y perfecto progresivo, ¿ok? Is it clear? ¿Alguna duda hasta ahora, chicos? Any questions so far?
Teacher, entonces la tarea es del present, present progressive y simple past.
Vamos a tener aquí los tiempos O sea, dijimos que eran 12, ¿verdad? Dijimos que eran 12 tiempos, entonces teníamos presente, pasado, futuro, y teníamos, por ejemplo, las formas del presente simple, continuo, perfecto y perfecto continuo. En este caso les voy a mandar la tabla, y bueno, como les decía la vez anterior, se supone que ustedes también ya vieron varios tiempos gramaticales. Entonces, lo que quiero es que ustedes hagan como, o se acuerden de lo que ya vieron, pero igual me estaban comentando que no vieron todos. Entonces, les voy a mandar esta tabla para que igual eh, vayan viendo los ejemplos. Si tienen alguna duda, pues me escriben en el grupo de WhatsApp, se los voy a mandar por el grupo de WhatsApp, les aclaro las dudas y pues ya pasan a hacer la parte de su tarea. En caso de que haya algún tema que no hayan visto en sus clases anteriores, me dicen para que lo dejemos como pendiente y le demos explicación o un tiempo específico a ese tema, tiempo gramatical, o sea, para que se lo explique en una clase o les dé más ejemplos y ustedes puedan ya entenderlo como tal. ¿Sale?
Sí, entonces, si no hemos visto uno, no lo contestamos, ¿no? O le preguntamos
Ajá,
por
si no
WhatsApp.
lo han visto, exactamente. Si no lo han visto, igual me lo reportan en WhatsApp para que yo vaya haciendo las anotaciones y también vayamos haciendo espacio para esos temas que quedaron como inconclusos.
Ok, entonces serían de los 12 tiempos. Y
Ajá, la idea es que sean los 12,
sí,
aunque les digo, con el presente, con el futuro va a quedar, va a quedar inconcluso y nada más sería, o sea, si ya vieron, no sé, futuro continuo, por ejemplo, y si ya vieron futuro perfecto y se acuerdan de las estructuras, adelante, lo pueden hacer. Pero si no, este,
sí,
no hay problema y nada más me reportan para que yo vaya haciendo las anotaciones y lo trabajemos durante la clase, ¿ok?
sí. Y otra duda, por ejemplo, el verbo que vamos a utilizar para el afirmativo, igual lo utilizamos para el negativo y el interrogativo, o en cada uno cambiamos de verbo.
Sí, no, no, como les sea más fácil, si quieren cambiar los verbos, pues adelante. Si quieren usar el mismo verbo de la primera oración, sin problema.
Ok, thanks.
Ok, entonces, you're welcome. Have an excellent week. And please take care.